Kia ora tātou e homa. Nau mai piki mai ki taku nei I pāho. Ko Jack Thatcher tēnei. I'm a Voyager, I'm a Pwo Navigator, and I'm a wannabe Māui. And this is our podcast, Being Māui. I'm sitting here with Hene Rapa, Rupuha, who at some stage in this is going to keep me on track because I like to ramble a little bit, and unfortunately for you all, this is me going to be rambling about all those things that are important to me. So hopefully they're interesting, and hopefully you learn something from them.
I'm probably the worst person to be in this because I'm just too nice to be like, yeah, that's cool, carry on.
Well, that's the whole idea, isn't it?
I guess so.
Why not? Anyway.
Well, what does wannabe Māui mean to you?
Oh, well, wannabe Māui is a good thing because it puts a real high pedestal on you know, that taumata of being a master navigator, to be like Māui, and you know, for me, I'm still on my way to that place, and I don't want that to end. So being Māui, that's kei te pai, but at the moment I'm just a wannabe.
And what does that mean? What does voyaging mean, or fishing up islands, for those who don't know?
In terms of being Māui, we know that Māui had a great big hook. You saw it in the movie Moana. And he went out fishing up islands. He fished up Aotearoa, he fished up, you know, Hamua, he fished up Tonga, he fished up the Marquesas, he fished up Hawaii. So he's relevant to all of our Pacific brothers and sisters. And so I suppose being Māui is knowing that we're a part of something bigger than just Aotearoa. We're a Pacific nation, and that's how we should be thinking about it, because the Pacific belongs to us. We're the ones that first transferred all of our communities onto almost every habitable island in this place, in this ocean. And so, you know, let's take ownership of that. Not so much ownership, but let's take ownership of the fact that our ancestors were awesome. And so wanting to be like that is where I'm at. So that's why I want to be Māui, and that's also why being Māui is important.
So how did your journey start?
Well, it started in 1992. I got asked if I wanted to go up and train to be a Voyager. And I got chosen as a crew member of Tamarereti. And, you know, in September our journey started, and we arrived in Rarotonga 24 days later. That's a long time to be at sea for your first time.
Right.
You know, the thing about it is, when we went out, you know, prior to then, we were learning about the stars. Pakake Winiata was our tohunga on board at the time, and he gave us all these readings. And there was a list that came out of the middle of astronomical knowledge of the Māori. Knowledge of the Māori became like a little Bible for me. You know, I didn't really take too much into account of what Elsden Best thought our tūpuna were giving him. I read those and I made my own decisions around what they meant, and I found that that was better for me. But there were star lists, and I started learning these star lists. And it's funny because as I was learning the Māori names for all of those stars that we were learning in Pākehā, you know, like Sirius, Canopus, and Rigel, you know, and Pleiades. You know, and you learn about these, and then when you started getting the Māori names for them, well, there's Takurua or Karewa for Sirius. There's Atutai or Aotai or Otai for Canopus. There's Matariki for Pleiades, and there's Puanga for Rigel. You know, and I was learning these, and I started thinking to myself, hey, I've seen these names before somewhere. And I went home from one of our wānanga, and hunting through my things, trying to find something. I found my old songbook from school, and I opened it up, and there's a loose leaf in it, and in the loose leaf was a tau. The first stanza of the waiata was about Matariki. It went something like this. It went, Tākina maira ko ngā hui a Matariki, puanga tautoru ka ngaro atu tai. Mā e kārewa te tini o te wheturiki. And then went on to some other things, you know, about moeho. And I'd realised that I'd learnt these when I was in the fourth form at Hatopetera College, in the North Shore of Auckland, and that sort of was a little bit of a revelation. Here I was, I had some knowledge of Matariki, and I didn't really know it. That was back in 1992, and that at the end of the voyage to Rarotonga, Heke Nukumai Puepi Hek, he asked me if I would sail back to Aotearoa, because I was only supposed to sail up and then fly home for the birth of my second child. And luckily enough, she decided to hold on until I got home. Don't judge me. My wife let me. I was learning about those stars in the tau. Puanga tautoru ka ngaro atu tai. And we had this piece of paper. It had that exact star line that was there. And I go, wow. And what it had was at 10 o'clock in March, you will go up and hold it up to the eastern horizon and see these stars moving towards the north. And I held them up, and that's how I learned them. And then in I think it was like either June or July, we were travelling up on the van. We broke down, and I get out and I'm looking up and I see these stars at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I go, what the hell? This isn't 10 o'clock. What are they doing there? And then that's when I realised, wow, you don't only see them at 10 o'clock in that same place, you see them at other times. So there's something here that I haven't quite picked up on, and I'm going to need to learn. Oops, let's just put that back on. I'm going to need. Oh, can you put that on, please? Yeah. And I'm gonna need to learn a lot more than I'd already learned. So yeah, it was an eye-opening thing. And then, but you know, I was only just into my journey to become a voyager. I hadn't been asked to think about being a navigator, and I went out and got myself these things, planispheres and stuff, so I could look at them and learn exactly how it all worked. And so on the voyage up and on the voyage back, that was me studying the whole time. Then I got asked, and that study just continued on into 1993, where my mate Te Moana-nui-a-Kiwa, he rings me up and says, hey bro, we're taking the kura, te kura kaupapa Māori o te pau, up on Te Kōrero to celebrate Te Tauhou Māori, Matariki. I go, oh cool. And he says, yeah, you want to come up? Okay, yeah. What he didn't tell me was that when we got up there, they drove the kids up, I walked up and sort of said, wow, you know, if we're going to do something to celebrate our tūpuna, we should do it the way they did it. So I walked up the maunga, and then for 10 years after, I made all the kids walk up with me. I got a little ahead of myself then. We get up there and they asked me to talk about Matariki, and I went, oh, hey, sorry, I don't really know anything about Matariki. Kids have just sung this little waiata about the stars of Matariki. And I said, the kids know more about Matariki than I do. And I realised that they were going to ask me to come back again and again, because they were determined on doing this every year, and they have done that for every year. And 2023, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of our going up on Kōrero with Te Kura Kaupapa Māori o te pau, and yeah, that was awesome. So what that meant for me was I had this parallel path to knowledge. One, learning how to navigate and use the stars in a practical way, and the other one, I suppose, kimi mātauranga. I'm going there to gather this knowledge so that I can share it with others. And when I say parallel, it's because they're one and the same, to be honest. And I came to realise that parallel path led me to a lot of understanding of how our kōrero tuku iho came to be. So in my search for knowledge, I suppose I came across a few stories. One that goes, ka tongo tongo hia te rangi I rungo o Wainui, ka puta ko te whānau marama. Ko tamanui te rā, ko te marama, ko ngā whetūrere, ko ngā whetū marama, ko ngā whetūrere, me te hinatore. Tēnā ei te whānau marama. I learned that a while back, actually, before I even started on these journeys. That was something that, it's a mātātua whakapapa of the family of light. You know, not everybody subscribes to that, but kei te pai, we do. And so, tongo tongo, in our mātātua kōrero, is the eldest o ngā atua. And he, ka moia ki a Wainui, the ocean, so that's the personification is Wainui. And ka puta, ko te whānau marama. So the whānau marama come into being, and what I learned was that every day we see the birth of the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, over and over again. And when you look back on why that's an important whakapapa, it's because it comes from a time when our tūpuna were voyaging, because they're looking at an ocean horizon, fully encompassed in that place. And to see tongo tongo, who lives at the horizon, wedding Wainui, you actually have to see that from a perspective of an ocean horizon. It sort of doesn't quite have the same thing with land, because he's not marrying Papa Tuanuku. So the whakapapa itself is probably older than our arrival here, or during that time when our tūpuna were coming down, fashioning stories, you know, to remember those things that they're creating in terms of mātauranga.
Understanding the world.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's pretty cool. And there's another story I learned at another wānanga with back when we were training to go to the 1990 celebrations for the signing of the treaty. The Queen was coming, 23 waka were built, we all went up there and had 3 minutes welcoming the Queen out on the water. So what I learned was that that Tāne had separated his parents. He clothed Papa Tuanuku in a korowai kākariki, of all of the trees and his domain. So Tāne mahuta. Then he wanted to dress his father, Rangi Nui, and so he needed light. Even though he'd separated and brought light into the world, he got put at the marama, but you know, the light wasn't strong, so he needed more. So he went to Tongo Tongo and he asked him for his children. Tongo Tongo first gave him the hinatore, and he took that, and with the hinatore is the glow of the universe. Well, the stars actually create that, and it's probably more accurately the glow of the galaxy.
Right.
But you know, glow of the universe is bigger. And he took that and he plastered that all over the body of his father, and he brought the first light into the world. Still not enough. So then he went back to Tongo Tongo and asked for the lesser lights. So Tongo Tongo gave him ngā whetū marama, the whetū ririki. And what he did was, he put all these baskets of the stars into the whole of his waka. But he took all of the bright stars and he wove a korowai, and he loaded that into the waka. And what he did was, he took his waka up onto Pairangi, and he took the korowai and he threw it over the shoulders of his father. creating the Milky Way, or creating Te Kōrero. And then he caused the waka to tilt and to pour all of the lesser lights in to fill all the gaps in the heavens. And then he left the waka there. And the waka became Te Waka o Tamarereti in the winter time, because that's the time when we can see it in all of its glory across the southern horizon. And then he went back to Tonga and he took the last of his children. Tamanui-te-ra, he caused them to cross the tuara of Ranginui. And then he took Te Marama to follow a similar path across the Uma. Oh, and he also took the Whetūrere. And he took the Whetūrere, the wandering stars, and he caused them to follow the similar path. But their path is a little more erratic. That's how they viewed it. And so in terms of their whakapapa, you have Tamanui-te-ra, the elder of all, Te Marama. Actually, Te Marama is a male. We get a little, what do you call it, confused.
That's like hina.
Because hina is the female. And then you have the Whetūrere, the planets. They are born also before the Whetū Marama, the bright stars, and then the Whetūriki are the lesser stars that are the youngest of all. So they're less bright. And the Hinatore is the youngest of all. And because they are, her glow comes from her siblings. Yeah. And so that's a pretty cool story. But the part of the story that we're going to go on with is that of how Tane left his waka at the horizon. And what we know is that the waka sits above the korowai, or the hem of the korowai, because all the bright stars are sewn into that hem. And so that's the Te Ikaroa. And Te Ikaroa, and today's more conventional ways of looking at it, is our galaxy, the Milky Way. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But Te Waka Tamarereti is represented by all these constellations that fall across the southern horizon, and they all align there at two main times. The first main time that we're going to talk about is it aligns itself just before the winter solstice, of when Hine Takurua holds sway over the environment. So that time of cold, of winter. And the waka is represented by Te Matau Māui. So Te Matau Māui, when it's in the east, is easily seen as the big hook, and it's trolling across the horizon. When it rises, it's the hook is sort of like, there's the horizon, and you've got the hook like this. And then it rises up, and then it comes all the way over, and when it comes down to set, it sets like this. And then Rehua sets at the horizon, and so ending his time. So he's the summer god, and Takurua is the winter god. And so Te Waka o Tamarereti is that lineup of stars that we know of as Te Pūtahi Nui o Rehua. And so when Rehua touches the horizon, Takurua is rising. So it's a synchronous rising and setting of these stars. That's important for later. And so you have Te Matau Māui becomes Te Tauihu, Te Waka o Tamarereti. The punga is the Southern Cross at almost its lowest point in the sky. Now, it's a circumpolar star constellation, so it never sets down here. It rotates around this point, Te Pito o Tonga, which is the point that all of the stars rotate around. You have Te Pito o Tonga and Te Pito o Raki, and that's in the north. And so you have these things happening. And from the punga, you have the 2 stars in the pointers, rangi nui and uruau, and they become the taura. And then just behind them you have these 2 shapes similar to mahutonga, the punga, and they create what we look at as being the rā o Te Waka o Tamarereti. Okay? So they're sails. And just behind the sails and holding a high position is atutahi. And atutahi is looked at as being the kaihautu. He's the firstborn of the whetū, of all the whetū, and the second brightest star in the sky. So he's standing there in the place of kaihautu, and then behind him and lower on the horizon is takurua. Takurua is the whetū marama, because he's the brightest star. And takurua sits below what we call the taurapa, and in the taurapa are the 3 stars of Tautoru, and one of the kōrero came from one of our tūpuna, one of my karaua back in those years. His name was Te Moana-nui-a-Kiwa. He told us that those were the 3 stars of the baskets of knowledge. And on our waka mātātua toroa, those stars are replicated in the whakairo of the original tauihu.
No.
Yeah, they're not in the one that's there now. Or I don't think they are. They might be. But in the original tauihu, those 3 stars are represented there. And so they're the baskets of knowledge. So there's a little bit of a kōrero about te akarangi and tāne climbing up into heavens to gather knowledge. And so that's a story for another time, but I just thought I'd bring that up. And then behind we have the constellation of Taumata Kuku, and then Matariki is behind. And one of the things, you know, that whole thing about uruau, no, not uruau, about ururangi. You know, everybody says, oh, that's the place where, you know, where the rains and the winds of Tawhiri Mātea, nea. But I also look at it as an urunga, and then the way where the waka entered that space to be able to come to rest at its urunga above the horizon. And so that's how I see Matariki is important to all this kōrero of Te Waka o Tamarereti when you're looking at it from that perspective. There's lots of other kōrero, but this is the one I share.
So how long does Te Waka o Tamarereti stay on the horizon at the time of Matariki?
Well, it stays there for quite a while, but if you're looking at those at that kōrero about when do we celebrate you know, time of Matariki, and you know, the first instance of that is Te Pautūtahitanga or PPD, and that's when PPD stands above all of these other tohu. It's the first sign of the coming of Matariki, is the constellation PPD, and so it rises in May. It's actually set for us here in Aotearoa. PPD sets around the equinox,
Right.
around that time. And then 2 months later, it rises to be the first indication that Matariki is almost on it. And it rises during the time when we're normally storing our kumara.
Right.
And so so that's quite important. So it comes up, then it rises up, and the important thing about PPD is it's in the exact same house on our star compass as Matariki, and so they rise and follow the same path. And they're 1 month apart. They're 1 month apart, and so you know, that's important. So when we look at that kōrero about when we celebrate Matariki, there's a little confusion sometimes around the kōrero. At the time before the rising of of Tamanui te rā, when the moon disappears, or in this case, is with the sun, that's at the first new moon. When the moon is with the sun, we look for the rising of Matariki. And that can happen pre-seeing Matariki, or it can be after Matariki has already risen. And because with a sea horizon, Matariki would rise for us here in Tauranga on and around the 15th, 16th of June,
Right.
and be visible. Might be up a little bit earlier than that, but it's the visibility that's the important thing, and being able to see it just before the sun rises. So when the whole of the Waka o Tamarereti is over the horizon, te pūtai nui o rehua, so you have those two things. So you have pipiri high, the Waka across, the two synchronous stars, one setting, one rising, right? And one taking their time, taking a grip on their time, and the other relinquishing his time, and that's a pretty important time of the year. And so, so rehua and takurua were viewed as a mahanga,
Right.
male and female. And so that's them, they're twins. So one setting, one rising. And so it's important to think about when these times happen. And there's other kōrero, and they're just as relevant for those that see the observations from a different perspective. All of our observations are from seeing these things from
Ocean view.
from an ocean view. Yeah. Okay, it's time to talk about Te Waka o Māui.
Cool.
So what are we going to talk about there?
Well, essentially it's the same waka, is it?
Yeah, it's the same waka. So same lineup of constellations, just a different time of year. So we celebrate Te Waka o Tamarereti during the winter time, and we celebrate Te Waka o Māui at the time when our tūpuna arrived, because they're capturing all of these images in the stars, or they're painting their stories in the stars, for their future generations. Anyway, so Te Waka o Māui. I'm going to start with Kupe. Kupe sailed down to Aotearoa in his time, and he came down and he found Te Waka o Māui. And for the most part, we look at that as being Te Waipounami these days, because the Ika o Māui is the North Island. But he gave instructions to his grandson, Nuku Tawhiti, after he got home, and he gifted his waka to him. So te mata haurua, and then Nuku Tawhiti re-adds the waka and named it Ngā Toki Mata Whaurua. And then when he was planning to head down to Aotearoa, and Kupe gave him instructions. And those instructions go something like this. Waihoa tama, me mere mere ki te taha katau o te ihu o te waka. E heke ana i rungi te huarahi ki te Ika o Māui. E huri tō nohi ki te tonga, ki ngā tūkapua ka tū i te Ika. Something like that anyway. So if you analyse that a little, it's stay to the left of the setting sun and Venus. Follow that pathway down to the great fish of Māui. And then turn your head to the south, and you will see the static clouds standing above the fish. And, I've sailed that path 5 times during my time, from starting in 1992 all the way through to 2012. And And in that time, I'd only seen, what I came to realise was Te Waka Māui once. First time we went down, we saw the two kapua. And we were pretty, amazed just by that, about how easy it is, well, not easy, how you can tell those clouds are different from the ones that are moving. You can understand how in that Parangi and Kura Marotini, well, not and, I've already told you I think they're the same person, and how Kura Marotini would cry out how Aotea in seeing those static clouds and knowing that they're above land. But I think that whole thing about, and you'll come across the great fish of Maui, 2014. Because basically 1992 saw the two kapua, 1994, I think it was 4, we did a practice run out to sea, way out to sea, and then we turned around and came back just to see those signs.
Right.
And then it clouded over, got there, and we saw what we thought may have been two kapua.
Right.
1995, it was too cloudy, and the two kapua didn't thing, but we knew where we were. 2000, what was it, 1995? Then in 2007, we came back from thing, and it was different, so we came from a different direction, but we thought that we might still see those things, and we didn't. And then 2012, oh look at that, it's more than 5 times, it must be 6. 2012 we came back in a storm, and so it was overcast, everything, and we saw nothing. Then 2014 we came down, I was with on Hokulea at the time, so all the other times I was on Hokulea or Ngahiraka. And 2014 we came down on Hokulea from Samoa down to Tonga, down to pretty much like your voyage, down to Rangitahua, and then we came down and everything sort of went beautifully. We had very little rain, very little cloud, nice winds, and so we came down quite easily. And we're 2 days out, and I got up and I put on some clothes, put on a hoodie and some sweatpants. And the navigator, whose name was Kaleo Wong, he goes, "I knew we were close." And I go, "Ooh, what are the signs, bro?" And he says, "You put some clothes on." I went, "Yeah, that's not a sign of finding the land, bro." And he goes, "Oh, no, it is. Because you wore a singlet, and now you got and shorts all the way from Samoa all the way down to today. And you get up in the morning and you're wearing a hoodie and track pants, and it means it's getting colder." And I'm going, "Oh yeah, you could take that as, and what about your dead reckoning?" "Yeah, my dead reckoning's pretty good. I think we're close." "Well, cool." I says, "Wow, I wonder if the skies will be clear tonight. We might see some things." And that night we just had this beautiful southern horizon.
Wow.
And there was, well, we arrived in October, so it was actually quite perfect, because it wasn't quite, so Rehua was still quite a little bit higher, so Takurua hadn't quite come up, but I could tell that it wasn't far away from Putai Nui o Rehua. And this in the evening, and then they did later on in the evening, but and I'm going, "Yes." And I said, "Do you see that?" And he goes, "Yes, the stars are awesome." And I said, "I can see Mahutunga right down over here. See here, Circumpolar, knock on this." We were going through these Kōrero. And I said to him, "Did you know that, right, what we're looking at there, in the winter time, we call that Te Waka o Tamarereti. And it's the one of those signs that tells us when we celebrate our Toho Māori." And he goes, "Oh, really?" And I'm going, yeah. And so I'm looking at it now, and I'm realizing that that's Te Waka Māui. And look at the Milky Way. Milky Way is sitting under all those constellations. And I went through the constellations with him, you know, like I did earlier. Hey, Te Matua Māui, Te Punga, Ngā Rā, Atutahi, Takurua, Te Taurapa, Tautoru, Puanga, Te Kakao o Te Hoe, and they were all there. Not right at that time because they were still rising up. But when they rose up in those two stars, became synchronous, I was saying to them, wow. And it wasn't quite, they were still quite high above the horizon, so Rio still had to go down because we were still about 34 something.
Right.
You know, so we still had a little bit to go. The next day we would see, you know, the two kapua.
Right.
And we were looking at Te Waka Māui, and you know, just that whole observation sort of led me to realise that our Matariki celebration might be a construct of knowledge that was devised in Aotearoa.
Right.
But it was founded, I believe, on the arrival of our waka tūpuna in Aotearoa, because they named that, Kupe named that Te Waka Māui. I thought that we were looking for Te Ika Roa, but in the Kōrero, and you'll come across the, this is the Great Fish of Māui. You come across the Great Fish of Māui, hey, Te Ika Roa, and the waka sits on top of that. And I was thinking, there's the Waka Māui, man. You know, this is just, it was just revelational. You know, you sit there and you finally see it after 22 years of trying. I thought it was 5 times, it's actually 6, good Lord. You know, or maybe I discounted that 2007 one because we came from a different direction.
Right.
But, you know, we still came down.
What's his kōrero about the Great Fish of Māui and the whole thing?
Who's kōrero?
Kupes.
Oh, leave the sun and Venus to the right of the prow of your waka. Heke anei, sail down in that direction and you'll come across the Great Fish of Māui.
Oh. You didn't say that before, but yes.
Oh, didn't I? Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's my bad. I was getting too excited, I think, about the kōrero, because, you know, and you come across the Great Fish of Māui. And so the Great Fish of Māui is the Milky Way, and the waka sits on top of that. And
wow,
and if you
cool.
if you think about it, the synchronous rising and setting, Te Pūtahi Nui o Rehua, is a latitudinal marker for Aotearoa. Yeah, and if you are able to see that, then that's a sign that you're close to the fish. So that's the land itself. And you know, that whole revelational stuff that I was talking about, when you see something for the first time, and then it makes you realize that all these other things you've been seeing, and that at this different time, you know, that kōrero of the instructions of Kupe to Nuku Tawhiti made more sense. Well, made a lot of sense. And yeah, that was a pretty cool space to be.
Yeah.
You know, so well, it was a pretty cool space to be Māui. Hey, and it puts almost all of that kōrero around Matariki itself, and also, you know, the Te Waka Māui, puts it into that perspective of their related stories. And they come from our tūpuna, who recognise these things as important, and they just transferred one set of knowledge onto another, I think, this is what I'm thinking anyway, to create a tradition around Te Tauhou Māori that mirrors their arrival in Aotearoa in the summertime, and in the wintertime they can still celebrate their thing, but they have a different perspective of that. Yeah, that's pretty cool when you get to a point of recognizing for yourself that you know that our ancestors were awesome in the ways they created their stories, and then changed them slightly maybe to create a different tradition. That tradition of arrival is based on seeing the great fish of Maui, not actually the land, but the Milky Way above the land, and the two kapua are those things that tell you that there is land under that. But you don't see that until the next day. Whereas you see the great fish of Maui, which is the Milky Way, aligned right across the horizon, then you know you're in the latitude or you're close to the fish. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's real cool.
Yeah, and so you know, that relationship in different times of year, where you're seeing exactly the same tohu, but you have a different kōrero for each. But kōrero that are still related.
Yeah, and still relevant.
Yeah, and very relevant. Yeah, especially in terms of your own mahi now, where you're, you know, a new navigator, and you're going to want to see those things more often probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good place to be.
It always starts with wanting to be Māui. Well, in my case, Moana.
Yeah. Well, in my case, I want to be Māui.
Yeah. And then that's when you get to see what they saw and what our tūpuna saw, and then that's when you're being.
Yeah, absolutely. So the last thing about that, and we know that our tūpuna created those stories after their arrival. Te Waka Māui in the time when the puhutikawa are in bloom. And of course, Te Waka Tamarereti at the time when we're celebrating a change of season and a new year. That's pretty cool. And of course, that whole change of season thing has developed over time because they had to develop, I suppose, the processes around being able to survive in a more harsher climate than they were used to. What more harsh climate can you be in than our ocean? And if you can be one with that, you can be one with our island. Yeah.
That's cool.
So I puta mai te waka o Tamarereti.
Pretty cool story, Chief.
I thought so. That's why I've been teaching that all over the place. Well, I don't know about teaching, but you know, talking story all over the place about that. Yeah.
Fine. Cool, that's a wrap.
Yeah, well, e ngā mihi rā ki a koutou. Right. As long as you stay for the full length, you might learn something. And you might have thought you were only going to listen to things about Matariki, but as I said, the stories are interwoven into each other. And the more we learn about those connections, the more we understand our tūpuna and our place in this world. Kōrero atu.
Yummy.